Welcome back to the Girl Power Alliance podcast. It has been a minute since I have recorded a solo podcast. Let me tell you something. I miss it. I loved sitting in front of my computer here with my microphone and just kind of pouring out my heart. Well, I'm excited to be here with you today. My name is Michelle Schaffer. I am the CEO and the founder of Girl Power Alliance, and I have some thoughts I want to share with you today. I have been in the network marketing profession for almost 20 years. I've done a lot of things in and around the network marketing profession. I founded Girl Power Alliance in 2020, really feeling like God was calling me away from network marketing. And so for a year and a half, just ran the company as a membership. And really at the end of 2021, I felt like God gave it back to me. So we restructured the company and launched it again, kind of relaunched it. It was seamless. It was one day it was one thing and the next day it was something else in March of 2022. And have a full-blown network marketing company with our personal, professional leadership development membership that is Girl Power Alliance. And, all of these years that I have been in network marketing, I have, and even before network marketing, I worked with women. I stood behind the chair as a stylist and a makeup artist. And I have worked with women almost predominantly my entire career. I have, when I stood behind the chair, I listened to women all day long, share their stories, their traumas, the funny things that happen in life. I learned so much from so many people as they talked about their careers and the things that they were doing, their goals, the things that didn't work. I just had this masterclass in education in people and so many different things. And then when I got into the network marketing profession and really saw that to truly be successful, I had to help people to go from whatever level they were at to their next level, and hopefully their next level after that. I really learned a lot about how to communicate with people and how to help them to get out of their own way. And I still do that. I love doing that. But there is something really predominant in the world right now that I hear it almost daily. I hear it almost daily. I hear people talking about it. It has really become quite a crutch for a lot of people. We hear the people talking about trauma. We hear people all the time talking about the trauma that they have lived through. It could be trauma from their childhood. It could be trauma from, a relationship. It could be physical trauma, abusive. I mean, there's trauma everywhere. And people are talking a lot about it. We hear a lot of talk of post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. In the network marketing profession, I hear this all the time. I have MLM PTSD. People say they have PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, because of their experience in a network marketing company, and how, it's why they don't want to say yes, or it's why they can't move forward, or it's why they can't reach a goal, or whatever it is. All of that so often is blamed on the traumatic incident or incidences that somebody has gone through. And it's kind of a hard one to combat with people, because if somebody is convinced in their own mind that their trauma is a block, then it will be. That's the truth. Henry Ford says, whether you believe you can or not, you're right. Your mind is so incredibly, incredibly powerful. And, that's why all throughout the Bible, we are taught about the renewal of our mind, how to train our brain, where to direct our thoughts, and the things that, we should really be focusing our energy and our mind on. Because here's what I know. I really don't know anyone that hasn't experienced some type of trauma. I don't know anybody, even people who had really great childhoods. There's something somewhere along the line that caused them trauma, something that injured them, that caused them harm, that, damaged them in some way. Do you know anybody that hasn't had some experience with trauma? Now, some are worse, way worse than others. Some people's traumas, cause physical damage, emotional damage. I mean, there's the spiritual damage. There's all kinds. There's church hurt. There's, church trauma. There's, you name a thing, and there's trauma around it that somebody has experienced. So what do we do in a world where everybody is so traumatized all the time? And I as a bona fide Gen Xer, the millennials and now the Gen Zers, they talk about trauma more than any generation ever before, blaming their traumas on the Gen Xers and the boomers and all the things that as parents they didn't know that they didn't know, and just, didn't know how to, respond in the ways that the generations today are requiring. And I'm not going to get into that. It's neither here nor there to me. What I know to be true is that we are called to continue to grow. We're called to continue to evolve as a species, as a human being in our walk with the Lord. And, it's one of the things that I've really been focused on personally, just on a personal level, maybe almost sometimes obsessively, is continuing to pursue growth, working on my health, learning about nutrition, working on my walk with the Lord, diving into the Bible, really trying to understand it, working to steward any spiritual giftings that I have been given, and working to have more. I want more spiritual giftings. I want everything you got, Lord. If there is a supernatural spiritual gifting available to me as a human being while I'm on this earth, Lord, I want it. And how do you get those things? How do you steward them? How do you sow into them for increase? Well, you grow and you work on them. And I read books and I listen to podcasts and I try things and I take chances. And, people still talk about me. I just heard this week about somebody that I worked with for a number of years. We were involved in a couple of businesses together. Haven't talked to her in years. And she was talking negatively about me. And, while you expect that to some degree as a human being, people are going to talk about you. Some days it impacts you more than others. Some people impact you more than others. And I really kind of been pondering on this after I heard from the person that she was talking about me too. I really started to think about something. I started to think about why it is that some people are able to move forward and why it is that some are not. And there are a couple of things in particular that hold true, that you can identify in certain people. I learned to ignore. I learned to ignore and to continue to work. While other people wanted to talk about me, I just had my head down and I kept working. While other people were gossiping, I kept learning more and reading and or trying something new. While other people were complaining and, doing nothing, not growing, staying stagnant, staying in their same circles, I worked to, I just had my head down. I kept going. I heard this phrase once: ignore and outperform. Ignore everything that's going on, all the naysayers, all the negative talk, all the negative circumstances, what the news says, what the economy, the economic forecasters. Ignore and outperform. Work to continue to get better every day, and I've done that for many, many years. I also learned a strategy to discipline my own disappointment. I think many, many people spend the bulk of their lives disappointed. They're just constantly disappointed. How sad. How sad to be just, of course that happens to me. Oh, no wonder. Those things always happen to me. And what I learned to do was, and partially from my husband, Bobby, we were sitting at church one time and the pastor was speaking about marriage and expectations and different things. And the pastor was talking about, really kind of like what it is that you expect of your spouse and how to like manage your expectations of your spouse and stuff. And Bobby looked over at me and he was not joking. I wish he was joking, but he was not joking at all. He was dead serious. And it wasn't like deadpan comedy either. He was serious. He goes, I've learned to I have zero expectations. Like he said, I have very low expectations. And I thought he was kidding. And I kind of laughed and I realized he wasn't kidding. He's like, I just have very low expectations. And we, after church, had to discuss. I was like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I like that. That's how you stay happy. You have low expectations. But really what it is from him, I'll use my wording, is that he's learned to manage his expectations, because unmet expectations are why people are disappointed all the time. You have these expectations of the way somebody's supposed to behave, the way somebody is, what the actions they're supposed to take, maybe yourself, maybe what the outcome's going to be. You have an expected result of something. And so when your expectations aren't met, now you're disappointed. And so I have learned to discipline that disappointment. I manage my own expectations. I don't put pressure on the result. I don't put pressure on people. I've even learned to lessen the pressure on myself. You've heard me say this phrase, I do the work, God, you handle the result. If you trust God, I believe if you trust God with your whole life and you do what he's calling you to do, then the result is not really up to you to decide. I mean, I have my own, I do have results that I want to see, but if they don't happen, I trust that if I have done the work that God has asked me to do, if I've been obedient to him, then the result is truly up to him. The timing, the capacity of it, the size of it, whatever it is that I'm expecting or hoping for, working toward. You have to learn to discipline your disappointment. Now, we're human beings. We have human emotions. So I'm not telling you not to feel. We should feel those things, but don't let them take you out. Feel the emotion and then get over it quickly. Learn to move on quickly. Discipline your own disappointment. And really, that was not even the topic that I wanted to get to on the podcast today, but I think it's an important point in getting to the next thing. We've all heard of PTSD, right? I talked about it a few minutes ago, post-traumatic stress disorder. But have you heard of PTG? Not PTSD, not MLM PTSD, but PTG, post-traumatic growth. Post-traumatic growth. Now, here's the definition of it. It is to be able to have a positive change as a result of something traumatic that happened to you. So why do some people sit in trauma and their whole lives, they're just constantly, they never get past this thing that they've gone through, this traumatic event in their lives, this traumatic moment, this traumatic experience. And it's just this loop over and over that trauma it's a common theme. But some people go through things, then they come out on the other side and they're better. It didn't stop them at all. That trauma actually allowed them to grow. How amazing is that? We need to talk more about post-traumatic growth. It is the ability to thrive as a result of a traumatic situation or experience. How can you get there? Well, I believe there's a couple of ways. Number one, it's this whole idea of expectation is one of them. But also, there's a question I like to ask people when I talk to them. When I'm on a call or a podcast or sitting with somebody face to face, and I love to hear their story. I always ask people, tell me a little about yourself. I'd love to hear your story. And depending on their story, sometimes people they tell their trauma story over and over and over. And if somebody tells me of a situation or a trauma that they've gone through, I will wait until they're completely done. And then I'll ask them a question. Gosh, I'm so sorry that you went through that. It's terrible. Was there anything good that came of that? Was there anything from that situation that you went through that actually helped you to move forward in some way? Sometimes it's just that question can just help them shift and break through. I like to do this. There's this little exercise I like to do at live events where I ask people to partner up, and I ask them in 60 seconds to tell, like usually one sentence or two in 60 seconds, to tell their trauma story. Tell about your experience that was traumatic or situation in your life that caused you trauma. And they do that with each other, 60 seconds with one partner, 60 seconds with the other. And then at the end of that, then they come back and they have to tell the same story, but they have to share that story not from a victim standpoint, but as someone who was victorious, to pull something from their story of trauma that allowed them victory, allowed them to stand in a place of authority or to move forward positively. Sometimes it's just the shift in their own perspective about a situation that happened to them. Post-traumatic growth. What is your trauma story? As you're listening to this, or maybe you're watching it on YouTube, what is your trauma story? What did you go through that was traumatizing to you? Are you still going through it every day because you're stuck in a loop? You keep thinking about it. And it is being used by the enemy to keep you in a holding pattern. You know, you can break through that. Stop having post-traumatic stress and start engaging in post-traumatic growth. Look at the scenario, the situation, and what is it that God allowed you to learn or be or become as a result of that? What did you take away? Is there anything? Find the thing. I can share with you in my own life that there have been plenty of situations that were traumatic, plenty of things that would have been barriers or block walls to slow me down or stop me. And oftentimes they did slow me down. They've never stopped me though. And when I look back now, as a 50-year-old woman, when I look back at these situations, some of them that I held on to for years, I wore them as badges of honor of this thing that I went through. And the reason that I was where I was at was because of this traumatic thing. I can look back now at all of them and I can find something in each one of those situations that added value to my life in some way, either a skill that I developed or a mental, emotional intelligence that I gained, or some compassion that I was able to have in the future. Something from every situation I have been able to pull from them to get to the next level. It was like each thing was a key that I needed at some point in the future to a door that only that key would unlock. Post-traumatic growth. How can your traumatic situation help to be the catalyst for you to move forward in your life? I think it's time that we focus a lot more energy on this growth instead of the loop of trauma that we replay over and over, because it's neuroscience. The more you continue to talk about your trauma, the more that solidifies in your brain. It literally, you're just creating this neural pathway that is so deep and wide, it's difficult to escape from the loop. But if you begin to focus on the growth that came from this instead of PTSD, PTG, post-traumatic growth is what you can have as a result of that situation. So I would just ask you today, how can you reframe this situation that you've gone through? How can you restructure it in your own mind and stay focused on it so that you can now thrive as a result of a traumatic experience or a trauma that you've gone through? I think if you do that, you're going to find that your life changes, and it changes really quickly. Inside of Girl Power Alliance, we really focus on growth. We work to help people take steps every day to get to their next level and their next level in a variety of areas. I believe that growth is a lifestyle. It's not a time period. It's a lifestyle. I have engaged in a lifestyle of growth. I feel like as long as I'm on this earth, there's always going to be more to learn. And I don't want to become stagnant. As I was studying before recording this podcast, I was listening to a couple of different things, and I heard two different studies. Both of them were done in Harvard, different time periods. I don't know the names of them or anything. One of them was done over a 25-year period of time, and they found that there was one very predictive thing about people that were successful, and it was the people that they hung around with. They could predict that based on who you hung out with, how successful you would or you wouldn't be. I think that we talk about that all the time, like who you hang around with. If you're hanging around with people that don't care about growth, they're not engaged in growth, they're really just focused on like pop culture and the news and how, where they're going to party this weekend, but nothing that actually is having a potential positive impact on their own lives or on the world at large. If that's the circle that you're in, that's exactly where you're going to be. And you wonder why you're stuck. You wonder why you can't get out from this loop that you're in your own life. Well, you need to change your environment. Being inside a Girl Power Alliance, being around like an army of women who really are they are moving forward, all at their own different pace. I mean, everybody's not in the same place, but they all are focused on just becoming the best version of themselves while they're here on this earth, stepping into their identity, their kingdom identity. Just being around these women, you will change and grow and shift, right? And the second thing, another thing that they found with successful people was optimism, having a positive attitude, having the ability to look at a situation and see something good that came out of it. So positivity, who you hang out with, being in a lifestyle of growth, and focusing on how you can thrive as a result of the trauma that you may or may not have experienced or have gone through in your life. I think these things will help your life change radically and rapidly. And I couldn't wait to share that with you. And I hope that this has an impact on you. And I'd love to hear, as a result of listening to this podcast, how you can actually look at and maybe just change up the story that you've been telling yourself and others for a really long time about your trauma. How can you turn PTSD into PTG in your own life? Now, start now. Don't wait until the new year. Start today. Start today and allow yourself to shift and change in radical, dramatic ways, and watch everybody else around you change too. So thanks for hanging out with me here on the podcast today. We have some amazing things going on inside of Girl Power Alliance right now. We just launched kind of a subsidiary, a division of Girl Power Alliance called GPA Merch. It's gone wild. It's gone wild. It's free to rep our really, really cute online boutique and earn commissions off of that. And of course, our membership just continues to grow and expand. We have the Radiant Leadership Academy classes that are starting. We have the Radiant Leadership Coaching Program for those that want to teach it. The Radiant Speaker Academy, which we're just raising up people to be more stage ready than they've ever been in their lives before, and actually creating a platform for them. I mean, it's an amazing world to be a part of over here inside Girl Power Alliance. So this is your official invite. We want to invite you to be a part of what we're doing. Just join our community and hang out with us, hang around some of these women and watch how you begin to shift and change just being in their atmosphere. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Until next time.